Okay. So, welcome everybody to the special edition of So Chatty, episode 62 for June the 11th, 2022. And a little different format today because I am running, as you watch this, a pop-up sew day. So we have a live studio audience for the first time, which is a little different from having a live with Stephen and Walter live, because that's all done through YouTube. We're doing this through Zoom and recording it. So when you see this, when it gets posted, it will have already happened, but it will give us an opportunity to interact with an audience near the end of today's show to see if they have any questions or comments or anything like that. Now, one word of warning about all of this: technology, when you need it the most, often fails. So I have some things I'm going to do today with the technical part, and I'm hoping that it doesn't fail. Right off the bat, I see a little problem I'm having here. Let me go here. Oh, no, cancel it. Okay. So, Walter, what have you been working on?
Right now? Well, nothing right now.
Well, now, what are you going to show us? Jeez.
Okay, so you asked me to talk about some men's sewing patterns, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I often do shirts, or right now I'm also working on a pair of shorts. And over the last year and a half or so that I've been sewing some clothing, I've used various patterns, and they're all obviously men's patterns across the internet. And some of them have been PDF patterns where you print at home, and then you have to stick them all together. And then other ones have been actually paper copy patterns that you have to either buy on the internet, or mostly buy on the internet and have them shipped to you, type of thing. And they come already pre-printed, so you don't have to do anything other than cut it out or whatever. So I have 3 different manufacturers that I've purchased from, and some are specialized. They all specialize in both men's and women's clothing, but they do have more men's patterns than the average place does. Sometimes when you go to a fabric store around here or anywhere, it's sometimes hard to find men's patterns. I think Vogue carries a line of men's patterns, but other than that, men's patterns are often difficult to find. So online, there's about 3 different places I've purchased from. One is called Sinclair Patterns, but the only problem with Sinclair Patterns is they tend to cater to more working with knits, like sweatshirt material and stuff like that. So most of their patterns are sweatshirt, t-shirt, like track pants type of thing. So not everybody wants to make just that. Now, I did make one from one of their patterns, and it's called the Monterey Polo. So I have it here. I'll just show you quickly. This is the Monterey Polo that I made from that pattern. It has a hood, a lined hood. Sorry, that doesn't show very well. It has a lined hood, zippered pockets, has a zippered pocket up here. And it turned out very well. And actually, what was nice with Sinclair Patterns is that they have video tutorials as well as your pattern and instructions. So you can go back and watch the video tutorial, or you can not follow it by just reading the pattern. And the pattern is actually very good, and they're actually very detailed. So this was easy to make because their patterns are so easy to read. Another company that I've purchased a fair number of things from is called Wardrobe by Me, and it's a lady that I think she's either in Finland or up in one of the northern Baltic countries in Europe, and she produces patterns for men and for women. And they are all PDF patterns. So you purchase them online, you print them off at home, and you stick them all together, type of thing. Or you can take them to a printer and they can print a giant technical drawing pattern for you to use if you want, but then that's an added expense. It's I usually just print them off at home, and you have 30 or 40 pages that you have to stick together, and then you cut it out type of thing. And wardrobe, the only problem with Wardrobe by Me is sometimes her instructions are not very they're sometimes difficult to follow, and she occasionally leaves some things out, and so they're not necessarily for a beginner sewer. It's usually more for somebody that's sewed before, because sometimes she'll leave some things out on that should be there, and apparently she isn't really good at taking criticism about her patterns. So but they are decent patterns. They look good once they're put together. So I've done a few of those, and I can show you a couple that I've done here. One is a shirt that I recently did. It's called the Tropical Shirt that I've done. I've done I've done 3 patterns from her. I've done the Tropical Shirt, I've done men's cargo shorts, and I've done a utility jacket, all of which were from her patterns. And they're reasonably priced. They're not too expensive. They're about between $10 and $20 to purchase a pattern. And you just download it and print off the PDF. I've done a pair of cargo shorts from her pattern. This is the cargo shorts. They have the back slip pockets. These came out very well. They were fairly easy to put together. And I did this huge fall coat that's fully lined. I have an inside pocket that I did. And it came out very well as well. So I'm happy with that as well. And that's all from her patterns on Wardrobe by Me. So she's worth checking out. Just be careful when you read her patterns. The third place that I've purchased a lot of patterns from is a place called Thread Theory. Thread Theory is a company out in Vancouver, and they produce both paper copy patterns that you can get sent to you, or you can get you can get them in PDF format and print them off as well. So I have purchased a couple of their paper copies, and this is one that I've got called the Jedediah Pants, and I made them into pants. You can also make them into shorts. I'm currently using this pattern to make a pair of shorts. These are very good patterns. These are very well written. The instructions are really easy to follow. I would really recommend them. They carry both men's and women's fashions. They also have started reselling patterns from other manufacturers, like Wardrobe by Me. They carry their patterns, and they also carry some of the Simplififabric patterns. And they also carry another group of patterns from a company called MiniG. And or it's actually a company called MiniG, and there's a sewing magazine that they produce called So Def. And they sometimes feature patterns in this magazine called So Def, but they also create patterns and sell them on their own. And So Def is really, really good because they give you video tutorials as well. But just for regular patterns for this Thread Theory, I recommend them. And I have produced a pair of long pants from them. These are a jean-like pant. I've made it out of stretch cotton twill, so it came out very nice. I've got back pockets with a little bit of enhancement on them. They fit very well. I would recommend them. I'm currently making a pair of shorts out of them as well, out of the same pattern. So I recommend them. They also have, I don't have a sample of it. I also made a long sleeve shirt from one of their patterns, and it's called the Fairfield. And it came out very well as well. And it was very easy to follow pattern as well. And then, yeah, and then the other pattern was from this MiniG, where I've done a shirt called the Gosling. And that's actually the shirt that I make the most. And that's, Steve's wearing one of those right now. And I like its pattern as well. This is one of these patterns called From So Def, which is this magazine, and they sell the patterns, and they're actually very good too, because they have a lot of YouTube tutorials for how to sew each of their products as well. The only problem with So Def is they only have 2 or 3 men's patterns, and this shirt pattern that Steve's wearing is called the Gosling. So that's basically my what I've found with patterns so far for men in sewing. The Vogue does produce a few men's patterns, but again, with Vogue patterns, the instructions are difficult to follow. So they are not really for someone that's a beginner sewer. But that's about it. That's my expertise on patterns for men.
Okay, that was a lot. Actually, that part of it I was waiting for later on. We jumped the gun, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. It fits in there. So what I could do is, if anybody has any questions right now, if you want to ask a question about what Walter was just talking about, you just need to unmute yourself and ask your question, and I'll put you in the spotlight so we can see you. So any questions? Have a few people coming in here as well, which they won't know what we're doing. So any questions from anybody at this point?
Me.
Who's me? I can't see.
Jean.
Oh,
Jean.
Jean. Okay, second, let me get you in here. Okay, there you are, Jeannie.
Walter, where are you finding your fabrics other than the quilting cottons when you need the twill and all?
I have a number of companies across Canada where I purchase from. I have a couple in the US that I purchase from as well. In the US, I will purchase, I have purchased a fair bit of fabric from a company in New York City called Mood Fabrics. You may have heard of them. I think they're often featured on sewing shows or something like that. They're a great big warehouse in New York City, and I think they have one in Los Angeles as well.
What are they called?
They're called Mood, M-O-O-D.
Okay.
Fabrics. And they carry all kinds of fabric for doing clothing, and their prices aren't too bad. And sometimes they put stuff on sale, and actually it's even better price. From in Canada, I have a few places that I tend to order from. I have ordered from a place in Calgary called, it's hard to pronounce. I have to even look it up to spell it. It's Loiseau Fabrics. It's spelled L-O-I-S-E-U or something like that. I'd have to look it up. They have a weird name. I don't know. But anyway, it's an online company, and they have really great jerseys and knitted fabrics and sweatshirt fabrics and stuff like that. And that's really my go-to for jersey type fabrics.
We will have the link for Loiseau in our show notes. We always do, actually, for
Yeah,
chat.
I'll put I'll give Steve the links for the sewing patterns, and I'll give him some links for the clothing things too. So I'll just get a pencil here. Anyway, and then For other types of materials, like there's cotton twill I'll buy. I have purchased cotton twill from a company called Simplififabrics in Canada. They're near, they're east of Cornwall and in a little town. And that's all they do is sell online, but they sell a lot of organic fabric. The only problem with them is you have to be really careful with what you order because you can sometimes get fabrics that are really, really heavy, like a really heavy canvas or really heavy, like that coat that I showed, it's a really heavy cotton twill. And it's really nice fabric because the fabric is really soft to the touch. And then I'll order, there's another place I've ordered from called Water Tower Fabrics in, it's somewhere in Ontario. I think it's near Chatham or something. And it's good for knitted fabric and sweatshirt material. And then I've ordered some stuff from a discount place called Fabricville in Ontario, and they're good for discounted stuff. And I've purchased some really good cotton twill from them for next to nothing. I've purchased, I think, some cotton twill from them for about $8 a yard. So I'll order stuff from them, and that's pretty much it. There are a few other places I've ordered from, but it's usually when I'm looking for a specific fabric or something like that. And I'll just, like, we have a store that's sort of like, that's a chain fabric store called Fabricville that I have ordered from, but they are extremely expensive. And that's only when I can't find something anywhere else that I'll order from them. I've occasionally ordered from fabric.com, and that, which is associated with Amazon in the United States. And again, for me to order from them, I have to be kind of desperate because they tend to be very expensive by the time I get the fabric to me. So that's just about it. I'll write down the places and give Steve the links to them.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Walter at this point in time? Anybody wants to ask about what he was talking about?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention Moods. If you guys ever watched Project Runway, that's where they used to go for their fabrics, to Moods.
That's what
I've been there. It was before the show was on, but I've been there, and it got lots of fabrics, all different kinds. It's a really great place. The other thing I was going to ask Walter, have you ever tried or thought about using pattern drafting software?
No,
There's a company that I've used. It's called Wild Ginger, and they have many different kinds. It's like tailor-made is for the men, and I forget what the women's part is called. A Pattern Master Boutique. That's what it is. Pattern Master Boutique. Then they have another version that if you're creating patterns, it's called Cameo, and you can size things up. But if you're just doing it for yourself, the tailor-made would be the one that you would use. I've not used the men's version, but I have used the women's. The one thing to go in, when you put your measurements in, and they show you how to take your measurements, it isn't total magic. I mean, it helps, but you're still going to have to do some alterations, but maybe not as much as you would if you were, at least for women, not as much as you would have to do if you were buying, one of the 4 major patterns. They don't, there's a lot of alterations have to be done. And the other thing I did when I was doing that, I bought a printer that printed 11 by 17 inch paper. That helped with putting the patterns together, not as much taping.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for the information.
Sure.
Okay,
I'll have to take a look at that.
and does anybody else have a question for Walter, or can we move on? And for anybody that just came in to today, I put in a couple of people. What we're doing right now is actual special edition of So Chatty. That's why everybody's on mute, and we're doing it right now in this format. So, okay, then I guess it's my turn. So this is where we could get a little tricky here, because I'm going to try and do a screen share and hope that this works. And there it is. I think it is working. Okay, so everybody should see my latest quilt. I was talking about this earlier today. This is the quilt from hell. That's what I called it. It is not what it was supposed to originally look like. It is from Northcott. It's a pattern called With Glowing Hearts. I bought it as a kit, and the instructions are horrible that are in it. And I fought with 1/8 and 3/8 and 5/8 and 7/8 of an inch with this thing. It's a sampler. It's got different blocks in it. And then it also had a panel included with it to make these little blocks that say Canada on them. You had to fussy cut those. And it just was not working no matter what. And in fact, I went and saw that Northcott has put up some videos by the designer of this quilt, and she doesn't even follow her own instructions. And in fact, she introduces a special tool for doing mitered corners that some of the blocks call for, but she never mentions that at all in her instructions. So I gave up on it and I redesigned it myself, and this is what I ended up with. And I happened to have this panel that I'm using here as side pieces. It was left over from another project that I did in a similar line of fabric from Northcott. And so I just cut it in half and put it on, and it's done. It's okay. I'm not overly thrilled with it, but it'll work. So that, and then I had pieces left over. So I decided I would make, these are a couple of the blocks that look like they worked out in that pattern, but there's problems with those blocks, sizing wise. So I just made them into new pillow covers. And I even had some pieces left over again, so I made a table runner too. So I got more than one thing out of that pattern, as you can see. So just let me adjust things here, get things right. And okay, so that's what I've been up to. So now I have a little special event to tell you about. This is an event that I'm just re-altering my screen configuration here. You can't see what I'm doing, but I'm doing it. And I'm going to take you out of the spotlight because you're not important anymore. Yeah, that's what we'll do. Boom. Okay, so you may know or remember I did an interview with a lady out west called Brenda. Brenda has been on Craft and Chats before, and Brenda is also the operator of a YouTube channel called Conquering Mount Scrapmore. And I have reviewed her YouTube channel in a previous Idiot Quilter episode. Well, she is running something called the Marathon. Let me get it right. It is called the International Stitch Marathon. And there are about 8 different hosts for this that she has arranged. Each of the hosts, including myself, are YouTube content creators. It's a whole day. Well, what I'm going to do is I've made a little intro video for this, and I'm going to hopefully throw it up here. Just bear with me. Okay. It's new computer. Don't know what I'm doing. Okay, let's go to share screen and hope you'll be able to see and hear this in just a second. And that's not what I want. And that's what I want. And let's go here. Thank you. Okay. And this should come up here in a minute. Hi, it's Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and I want to invite you to the International Stitch Marathon, which is going to be taking place on July the 22nd, 2022, starting at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time and running for 12 hours. So it's one day of endless time for you to catch up on some of those projects you've been working on. And it doesn't matter whether you're a crocheter, a quilter, a knitter, a textile fiber artist, all are welcome. This event is being sponsored by a series of YouTube maker hosts, some that you may know and some that you may not know, including myself. So I hope you'll be able to join us, and there'll be more details as time goes on. But most of the details right now are in the show notes below, including the Zoom link for this event. Yes, this is a Zoom event. Should be a lot of fun. So I hope you'll be able to join all of us on July the 22nd, 2022, starting at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. See you then. Okay, I hope everybody was able to see that. I think you were, but things I'm monitoring here it off onto another monitor on my side, and I could see it and everything. So as I said, that's July the 22nd. All are welcome to it. It is in Mountain Time. So if you're in the East Coast, instead of 9 o'clock, it will start at noon. No, it'll start at 11 a.m. because we're 2 hours ahead of Mountain Time. And if you're on the West Coast, it'll start at about 8. I think would be the right time for that. So as I said, there are about 8 of us that are co-hosting it. And so on So Chatty for the next few weeks up to the date of the event, I'm going to feature a little promo video that tells you a little bit about each one of the co-hosts' YouTube channel. So you may discover some YouTube channels you didn't know exist out there that you may want to check out further. So I'm going to start with Brenda because she's the chief organizer. This is her brainchild. And I'm going to throw that up here on the screen for you.
Hello and welcome to Conquering Mount Scrapmore with Brenda. I'm Brenda and I'm here today to tell you what my channel is all about. We're about empowering quilters to have fun and enjoy their journey on quilting. We're going to show you new patterns and new ideas. We're going to do some case studies. We're also going to have shout outs to other channels. The other thing I want to do with my channel is I want to introduce you to some of my patterns and my ideas that I've got for quilting. This quilt behind me is called Barn Swallow, and it is just a beautiful, beautiful, beginner-friendly, very beginner-friendly quilt that I would like to take the opportunity to show you. Right now we're in the middle of a pandemic, and we've been sewing our stash, and what I do is I sew from my scraps and my stash. And I'll let you know if the pattern is scrap friendly or that fat quarters will be harmed in the process. But come with us. We would love to have you along on our journey. There's so many wonderful artisans on YouTube and other channels and blogs. You're going to enjoy this very much. So I hope that you have a beautiful, blessed week ahead and that you just have an amazing day. Okay, you take care. Bye.
Okay, so that's Brenda from Conquering Mount Scrapmore, and the link to her YouTube channel, I believe I'll have that in the show notes for you as well if you want to go and check her out if you haven't seen her yet. And as I said, she's pretty much a regular on Craft and Chats with us as well. And she's a very creative quilter, and her videos are very good as well. So you might want to check that out. So that leads me to, since I mentioned that I have interviewed Brenda before, to talk a little bit about, and I'm just going to put Walter back in here so he doesn't feel all alone. There he is. Yeah, wake up, Walter. I wanted to talk a little bit about how I interview people, because people give me suggestions for who to interview, which I appreciate. Some people have even, and this is why I'm talking about this, have actually approached other people. And there's somebody at our door, Walter. They've approached these people and have said they should contact me for an interview. And it kind of puts that person on the spot. And then I sometimes get an email from the person, but they think I know all about who they are and that just came out of the blue and I haven't got a clue. And you know what it's like right now. You get a lot of emails from people you don't know because they're trying to, you know, sell you things or scam you or whatever. So that's not how I pick out my interviewees. What I want to do with my interviewers is to pick people who are not known. They may have a YouTube channel, they may not have a YouTube channel, and that's okay either way. If they do have a YouTube channel, I want to give them an opportunity to promote their channel so they can pull more people in, get more traffic on their YouTube channel, and also to introduce maybe a new YouTube channel to people who don't know this is out there, because there are hundreds of thousands of YouTube channels and we can't know them all. So that's my criterion for picking somebody. Also, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone who is just a quilter. It can be anybody who's a maker. And what I mean by that, it could be, you know, knitting, crocheting, fiber arts, painting, scrapbooking, paper crafts, whatever. I just want to highlight their creative talent. Now, I like to draw from my subscriber base because I think that is a community in itself that has a wealth of information. So, you know, if you've ever thought about it and you hesitate, don't. Just let me know. Just send me an email. My email address is in the show notes, always there. And let me know. Don't be shy. I don't bite. And you've seen them. You know what they're all about up there and how I run them. So it's very relaxed. It's like we're just having coffee and talking like old friends. So anyways, I thought I'd make that clear because some people want me to interview big names like Angela Walters or Donna Jordan or Jenny Doan and that kind of thing. And nope, not interviewing those people. Not because I don't think it would be valuable, but it's because, one, those are big names and they're busy. Trying to book a big name is not easy. And also, we already know a lot about them because they are so famous. So I want to do the not so famous to maybe give them their 15 minutes of fame. So that's how I go about that. And I thought I'd just let you know. Now, we did have a comment. Oh, before I get to that, you know that I've got the Quilt Path, which is the computerized system for Lucy, for my long arm. And it's a steep learning curve. Well, Tracy Russell at Whirls and Swirls in the town next door to us, she is my APQS long arm dealer. She has arranged to have a person who is an expert on using that program to come up and give a 3-day workshop on how to use the program. And I'm kind of excited about this until I saw the price. $500 American for the 3 days. Expensive course. And that almost deterred me from taking it. But Walter turned around and said, well, you know, he did a 4-day course, was it, Walter, with Ron Collins? And you said that ended up costing you how much?
Over $600.
Yeah. So, and I'll never learn everything I need to know about this program on my own. And it does so much. And if I've invested like over $13,000 into this thing, then kind of behooves me not to invest a little bit more and really get full use out of this program. So I bit the bullet, I paid the money, and actually in Canadian funds, it was 600 and some odd dollars with the exchange rate. And so in August, I have 3 days, and I guess we take our tablet with us that goes along with the program that mounts onto Lucy, and we can go into simulation mode on it and do everything that we would do as if it was actually attached to the machine. But also Tracy has quilt paths, several of them attached to several of her machines. And so we're going to be using those too. So I think it'll be worthwhile. This lady is pretty much an expert, and she even helped design the latest version of the software as well. So I've been told. So yeah, that's coming up. And I'm kind of excited about it now that I got over the sticker shock with it all. Now, we did have a comment from one subscriber, and Walter's already answered the one question this person had for him. And this is from Selena, who's in Australia. And she wrote, my question for the next live is, if it's okay, this is actually for Walter, and I would like to know what pattern companies he likes using. I'm venturing into shirts for my husband but I'm quite nervous about getting started and wonder if he has any tips for beginner shirt makers. Well, you've already told us about the patterns and things you use, but have you got any tips for someone who's going to make their first shirt?
Hmm.
Don't do it.
No, actually, it's hard to say. Actually, it's intimidating at first to do. There's a lot of steps, so you be prepared that there's a lot of steps, and make sure that you have you'll need both material and interfacing, because you need interfacing to make the collar stiff, and if it's a long sleeve shirt, you need it for the cuffs, and make sure the interfacing matches the type of material that you're using. So if you're using a stretch material for sure, which you probably won't be, you have to make sure you have a stretch interfacing. And if you have a if you're just using like cotton or quilting cotton for the shirt, which I use a lot for shirts, you can use I think it's a woven interfacing that you should use for the stuff. So that's you research what your interfacings should be for the shirt, and make a selection as to what materials to use. Maybe your first shirt, you might make sure that your material is not too expensive so that you don't get overwhelmed. Also, when you're doing buttonholes, make sure you practice buttonholes first before you try to do a buttonhole on your shirt, because buttonholes are very difficult to unsew. And that's about it.
Okay.
But don't be too intimidated by it. And also, if you're doing edge stitching on the shirt, you might try and use one of the feet with guides on it, because it'll help keep your stitches straight.
Okay. Good advice. So I hope that answers Selena's question for you. And then she had one for me. And she says, Stephen, my question for you is about who you gift your quilts to. Where were you quilting before your mom passed away, and did you get to make her a special quilt? Well, we were just talking earlier today on the pop-up sew day about, who are quilt worthy people, as I would talk to them, because you've always heard horror stories where someone out of the goodness of their heart have created a quilt and given it to somebody as a gift, and they come and visit the person's 2 months down the road, and the thing's laying in a corner all chewed up, and the dog is sleeping on it and slobbering all over it. Or you give a baby quilt or something to someone who's expecting a child, and you never even see a picture. Someone mentioned this earlier today. You don't even see a picture of the baby sitting on the quilt or whatever. So that's why I think about who I'm going to give a quilt to and whether or not they are quilt worthy. Meaning, first of all, do they appreciate how much time and effort and thought and creativity you put into this gift? And second of all, do they have any idea how much this gift is worth in terms of the financial outlay for fabric and thread and the time that was put into it as well? And there are some people that that haven't got a clue about quilting. All they know is what they see in a store, which are mass manufactured, are not really quilts. They're a blanket with maybe a quilt design painted on them or whatever. And they have no idea. They see them listed for, $900 or $99.99 or less or something like that. And if you turned around and told them how much your quilt's really worth, and it comes out to 4 digits, they just about drop a load in their pants because they have no concept. And that's really not their fault. They don't do it. So how do they know? So you got to pick the right person. So to answer Selena's question about who do I give quilts as gifts to? I don't. Well, that's not true. I have not given away that many of my quilts. I gave 2 away at Christmas time, one to my nephew, one to my niece. Am I sure they're quilt worthy? Well, my sister's not, their mother. I know that only because I have offered to give her a quilt and she has pretty much flatly turned me down. She says, yeah, it doesn't go with my decor or something like that. Now she's a cross stitcher and she knows how much time and effort and expense there is in making a quilt and that kind of thing. But what I liked about my sister's answer is it didn't hurt my feelings. I don't want to give a quilt to somebody who really doesn't want one. And if they're upfront with me and tell me, you know, no, please don't. I appreciate the gesture, but really, I don't have any appreciation for it. I wouldn't be able to give it the appreciation it deserves, something like that. And that's fine. That I can understand that. I certainly don't want someone presenting me with something they've made that I have absolutely no interest in. I'll give you an example. You know, I run an art journaling group and I have now for several years, even though I don't really do that kind of stuff anymore, but these ladies are friends and they like to get together once a month. And they're into trading something called ATCs, artist trading cards, which are basically little 2 by 3 inch cards that are very artistic. They're very nice. And what they did, I didn't make them because I didn't like making artist trading cards. It's too small for me to fool around with. But they still sent me a set of the cards each month as well. And I had quite a collection. And before I changed this room over into my sewing room, I had a bulletin board wall that was littered with, I shouldn't say littered, that's just their garbage. They are not garbage, you know, to decorate the room for inspiration. But then when I switched the room over to this, I really didn't have a place for those and I didn't want any more. I literally had hundreds. And so I told them to stop sending them to me. Like, don't bother wasting your time making me one of these as well. I appreciate it. They're beautiful, but I have nowhere to put it. It's going to sit in a drawer and it's not going to be on display and it doesn't deserve that. So, and they understood that. And so they don't bother. And so, you know, I think I would feel the same way if someone said that about a quilt that I'm offering them. I'm not going to be hurt. Unless they turn around and say, I don't want one of your shitty quilts. I go, oh, fine. Bite me. Would you mind standing in front of the car and telling me if I've hit you yet or not? Anyways, now she also asked, were you quilting before your mom passed away and did you make her a special quilt? Yes, I was quilting before my mother passed away. And this is going to sound really harsh, but my mother was not quilt worthy. She didn't really have a great appreciation for it. I did make her a couple though for her bed in the nursing home. And actually there were a couple of quilts that I have that were my grandmother, her mother made years and years ago. And one of them my mother had fond memories of. It was a bird of paradise quilt. And I did take that to the nursing home and put it on her bed. And there was another one and I'd swap them out and bring them home and wash them because I didn't want them to be washed in the nursing home because they have industrial washers and they just boil everything. And I mean, if you ever look at people's clothes in a nursing home, you know that everything was put on that one setting, boil and destroy. And I didn't want that to happen because these are basically heirloom quilts. So I did make my mother a quilt, that actually a bed runner type quilt, lap quilt. And I figured, okay, if they end up washing that or it gets lost, it's not a big deal. But the ones with my grandmother are. Well, they did lose one of my grandmother's quilts. I think it was taken from her bed and it was never brought back. It could have been one of the wandering kleptomaniacs in the nursing home because they had a few of those. Or it was one of the staff that were a little light-fingered because that does happen. Or against the wishes that I had told the staff there about those quilts that do not wash them, I will look after that. Someone didn't get the memo and maybe it went down to the laundry room and well, it never returned, or it ended up on somebody else's bed in the nursing home and they searched for me, they told me, but they couldn't find it. If it did end up on another resident's bed and it brings them joy, then that's okay. That's okay. I can live with that. If somebody stole it, that, well, I have no way of knowing. So anyways, yes, to answer Selena's question, I did make some for my mom as well. So, and I probably would have made her more. I made her some wall hangings too, that to decorate her room as well at the time. Okay, so that is all we had today on the episode. But what I'd like to do now is remove us from the spotlight here, get everybody up on the screen. Okay, come on, respond to me. There we go. And how come you're back? Okay, now I'm stuck on here. All right, what's going on? Okay, pin spotlight, hide self, reading. Okay, I'm lost. Why am I lost? I'm not getting everybody. I'm still frozen on here for some reason. Okay. And I'm really not sure I can hide myself. But nobody else is coming up. I don't know what's going on. I've lost everybody else. Let's go to speaker. There's Walter. Oh, Dana, you have something to say? I'm mute. No, you don't. Then why are you waving at me?
I'm waving to tell you that I can see you.
But can you see everybody else?
Let me
Yeah.
go to you.
I can see everybody.
Oh,
I
you
can see
can't?
everybody. Yep.
Okay, for some reason I can't. So that's okay. Well, as long as you guys can see everybody, that's okay. All right. So does anybody have anything they'd like to make a comment about when you got the chance with us being here live? Because usually you just have to talk to a screen and we don't hear you. And maybe in some cases that's okay. I don't know. So if anybody does, you have to unmute yourself and just speak up. I hear Walter making the pitter patter sounds of coming down the stairs, so he's going to tell me something. What?
Well, you can't see it. I see everybody.
Okay, well, on this one, I'm not.
Okay.
Oh, wait, maybe that's because. Oh, there we go. Okay, fix that problem. Okay, so everybody's mute. Everybody's quiet. Nobody wants to say anything. Nobody wants to be on YouTube. Too late. You all are. Okay. Judith.
Does Walter make t-shirts?
Walter, get in there so you can be seen. Live television, people. This happens. This is live.
Actually, oddly enough, I have not yet made a t-shirt. Actually, I have half a t-shirt done. I got sidetracked and I don't have finished it. I have tried a polo shirt. I've got one done. I have to make another one. I want to, because the neck is hard. The neck is hard to do on them, and I want to get some practice to do that. But I haven't done another one yet.
Okay. And when you're going to make something, do you make a mock-up of the shirt or item first?
I have on certain clothing that I've done. I've done the mock-up on pants, and I've done a mock-up on a jacket I was going to do. I haven't finished the jacket, but I did a mock-up on it first too. I will do it on certain clothes. The shirts I've just been doing because I did the first one and they seem to fit. I'm happy with the way they fit, so I just have kept doing them that way.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so anybody else have something they'd like to say or comment? No? Yes? Maybe?
I had a question for Walter.
Jean?
When you took the class with that guy
Yeah, Ron Collins.
with Ron, how did that change what you're doing with your garment sewing?
Well, actually, it shows a bunch of different techniques that you can do that makes your life a little easier.
Okay.
And I've used some of his techniques in sewing the garments to, it sometimes makes things a little easier. Like one of the tricks he does for holding seams down that are difficult to sew. He uses a product called Steam a Seam. Okay, and it's you can buy them all over. It comes in a strips. This stuff, the Steam a Seam, 1/4 of an inch, right? And if you're sewing down an edge or trying to put a zipper in, you can put this on the edge of your zipper, and it comes in a roll. I'm trying to figure out how a roll open here. It comes in a roll, sorry, like this, right?
Mhm.
And it's sticky on one side, but it's actually heat activated. So you stick this, let's say you're trying to do a hem and you want it to stick down before you sew it. You put this along your hem, and then you iron on this side. You put it the sticky side down. You iron on this side, which has paper on it, right? It sticks it down to your hem, right? And then the paper on this side peels off. So it's a line of glue basically, right?
Okay.
And then you fold your hem up, and then you steam it down again, and it will hold it in place. It'll hold it temporarily for
Temporarily.
up to maybe a couple of washes or something like that. But meanwhile, your hem is all nice and done, and then you can sew it, and you don't have to worry about your hem shifting or anything like that when you're sewing it, right? And same thing with zippers. It'll hold your zipper in place before you sew it. So it's actually very useful. And he recommends using it all the time. He says, like, he's sewn lots and lots and lots of garments, but he says it's my friend. So I use it all the time as well. And it helps me keep my seam straight and stuff like that. So that's a tip like that. There's also techniques on how to sew certain pockets in. Like I have pockets that I've done on the back of my shorts. These pockets are fairly difficult to do, but they're not hard to, they're hard to see. They're like a slit. No, I can't really see it. You can't see it. They're like a slit, right? They're a slit pocket. And a lot of the swing patterns show you one technique and how to do it. And they're very difficult to do, but the technique he shows us how to do is actually makes a lot more sense and makes it easier to put one of those in. So it's things like that, techniques and how to do things that in a different way that's easier, and things like that. That he also showed things like a lot of people, when they sew a waistband on a pair of pants, the bulk of the waistband ends up being at the front where the buttonhole is. But there's a way you can shift the bulk to the side for the waistband. And that way when you hit the buttonhole at the front, you don't have that bulk. It's the bulk of it's shifted to the side type of thing. And it's all kinds of things like that. Has a whole bunch of different things. I have these booklets on how to do all these different things. So it was really worthwhile for somebody that's an expert in sewing men's clothes. He gives you some good ideas.
Okay, so I hope that answered your question, Jeannie. Now, I don't see any other questions, so I have an unboxing that just arrived. Let me show you. I wondered what this big long box was that showed up at the door today, because I was trying to think it's from Amazon. What did I order that would come in a long box? Well, this is a wool pressing mat. Now, I already own a wool pressing mat, but but what are you laughing at?
No.
I'll just show you here.
Hopefully it's half decent.
Yeah, I hope. Well, it looks like it is inside, because this was a really good price. This is 22 inches wide by 60 inches long. And the reason I wanted it is for my area over there, I wanted one piece instead of two. So, oh, it's a ½ inch thick. Is exactly, I can tell right now, it's exactly like what I already have, except one big piece. I will have to cut a little bit off it, about 15 inches, so it'll fit right across, but I should be able to do that with the rotary cutter. Well, maybe, we'll see. But right now, taking it out of the box, looking at it, I'm impressed. Guess what? How much this cost? I have seen really big wool mats that are about, I think 36 inches by 18 in around about 200 and some odd Canadian dollars, almost 300. This was 129 Canadian dollars on Amazon.ca. That's why I couldn't resist it and took the chance. And actually, I'm really glad I did, because this is exactly the same quality as my smaller wool mats, which cost me about $89 a piece for 18 by 24 inches. So I'm really thrilled with that. I'll get that set up and I can use it during the rest of the pop-up sew day today. So I think that brings us to the end of this episode. And first time doing something like this with a live studio audience. And yeah, I'll see how the end result of this is, and maybe I'll do it again someday as well. Thank you all for participating in here and watching and everything, adding a new dimension to So Chatty. And we'll see everybody next week.